So today's story comes from Bloomberg, and I said it's always good to get multiple, not just regional, but different, different ideas from different countries and get their prospect on this. Now, Bloomberg is predominantly a US outlet, so it will be really good to see what their should we take on, especially like the past week has been. And as we started off at this week, with the idea that Brexiteers are not only, especially the top Brexiteers, are out to get revenge. It also seems that Brexit supporters, or a certain section of Brexit supporters and Brexiteers themselves, especially as we mentioned on Monday, the Leave HQ starting to tweet some very, very buyer's remorseful tweets from them. Interesting times ahead. So let's see what they had to say. So, the Brexit gang is back in charge. Of course, this is from Bloomberg. So, the best way to get a decision out of Boris Johnson, according to those who work with him, is to persuade him to start talking. The British Prime Minister likes to think out loud, improvising his way to conclusions as he goes. His predecessor, Theresa May, would often make her mind up according to one aide, alone in a study, sometimes at 3 a.m, with a glass of whiskey in her hand. Where May demanded detailed evidence, consuming a red box briefcase full of official documents each night, one official says Johnson might make it through just 2 boxes a week, although another insists he hardly gets through more. What is not in doubt is that the 56-year-old Johnson has little time for conversations. Despite being a product of the English establishment, educated at Eton and Oxford, he has surrounded himself with a band of brothers who upended the existing order with their 2016 Brexit campaign, and they are bent on continuing the revolution in government. The tight-knit group of trusted aides is determined to reshape the country, bringing investment to depressed areas and overhauling how the government is run. After 3 months of battling the coronavirus pandemic, which nearly killed Johnson and damaged his reputation for competence, the Premier and his team of revolutionaries are now trying to reassert their reforming agenda. Among the most influential members of Johnson's inner circle is his senior advisor, Dominic Cummings, who faced demands to quit over allegedly breaking his own government's rules during the peak of the pandemic, but is now as powerful as ever. Cummings masterminded the 2016 Brexit campaign, which Johnson presented, while the Prime Minister's communication director, Lee Kane, another Vote Leave veteran. Kane was at Johnson's side while he was Foreign Secretary and stayed loyal in the lonely days after he quit May's cabinet. Together, Johnson's team designed a mission to reshape the economy and, quote, level up those deprived parts of the country that voted for Brexit and then backed the Conservatives, often for the first time in last year's election. And we've already gone over that. Their spending plans are nothing. It will do nothing. It will be a tiny drop in a bucket. So, okay, great, you're spending money, but you are nowhere near spending the amount of money you need to. According to Downing Street and Tory officials, Johnson and his pro-Brexit aides often lock themselves away to hammer out decisions in small groups. While he has had an instinct for the mood of the nation, Johnson delegates a great deal of government work to Cummings and others. He is also happy to see the lively debate break out in his court and doesn't mind arguments, according to one witness. Aside from the Vote Leave set, many of Johnson's highest profile advisers won his trust at City Hall during his 8 years as Mayor of London, including his Chief of Staff, Edward Lister, and the head of Downing Street Policy Unit, Miriam Muzat. The Prime Minister leads the government from the front, supported by his senior advisers and the civil service, a spokesman for Johnson said. In May, Cummings was accused of breaking the government's own lockdown rules on a 260-mile drive when the public was being told to stay at home, Johnson decided to keep the aid, defying political and public pressure to fire him. In the aftermath, there were reports that Cummings was on his last chance and would not linger long in the job. But with the peak of the coronavirus outbreak now over, Cummings is stamping his authority at number 10 once again, and Kane has returned to his plans to shake up the way the government communicates with the public. A new televised daily question and answer session will begin every afternoon to replace the convention of off-camera briefings, including political journalists and Johnson's aides. The reforming zeal of Johnson's Brexit gang claimed its highest profile casualty this week when the UK's most senior civil servant resigned. Mark Sidwell, who is also the National Security Advisor, will also depart in September and will be replaced by Johnson's trusted public aide, David Frost, as the new security chief. A move that dismayed Johnson's more controversial predecessor, May. Sidwell apparently paid the price for what Johnson's allies regarded as failings of the civil service machine to handle the coronavirus pandemic. Sidwell's exit was also a victory for Cummings in particular, and a sign that he is back in charge. According to one person familiar with the group, in public, Johnson and other ministers have been somewhat fulsome in their praise for Sidwell. In a speech designed to relaunch his political agenda on Tuesday, Johnson complained about parts of the government that seemed to respond so sluggishly and that sometimes seemed like a recurring bad dream when you're telling your feet to run and your feet won't move. Cummings has also attacked the civil service for blocking innovation and failing to deliver. He began the year by calling for weirdos and misfits to come and help him change the face of government. The most high profile of the people he hired as a result quit in February after it was revealed that he'd argued intelligence was linked to race. But Cummings was also unabashed by that, or by the attacks of his own actions during the lockdown. He also resumed his briefings to the team of special advisors, political aides who report to him from different government departments. If some aides are a little less in awe of Cummings after his recent humiliations, they still follow his instructions. On Tuesday, he instructed the government's political advisors to read books before an away day this month. Phil Tetlock's Super Forecasting and Andrew Grove's High Output Management. As a result, the books were the two biggest gainers in Amazon's sales chart the next day, along with a second Grove book, Only the Paranoid Survive. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister had his own reading list, a trolley in his office piled high with books on subjects ranging from diplomacy to ethics of big game hunting. A former colleague of Johnson observes that he is his happiest while with a book. And that's a view from America of what went last week. Now, if you compare what we went through on Monday to here, you'll notice that once again, Brexit is absent. Sometimes a lot of, especially foreign outlets, seem to forget that Brexit is actually still happening. In fact, many foreign countries, in the Times of this week, there was an article which, again, I wish we could go through, but unfortunately you get to read it once and then the paywall comes up, so I didn't get to grab it before that happened. And it was just talking full on about the fact Britain has become the new punchline. We are an embarrassment on the world stage. No one can believe what is going on in this country. And it is because of Brexit and the people in charge who are running this country. They cannot believe that, first of all, we are leaving the European Union because it has provided us with enormous prosperity and opportunities. It has, it's mind-blowing. They can't get around it. They can't understand it. The next one is the coronavirus. They can't believe that Britain has bungled this so much. As we've said before, Britain was once ranked by the WHO as one of the countries most prepared for a pandemic. How could we have gone from that to being one of the highest death rates of the coronavirus in the world? The next one is just the Brexit negotiations themselves. They can't believe the carry-on that's been going on, and the fact that we have now passed the time to get an extension. They can't believe we're going to go and do it. But okay. And then you have the whole thing that the Tories are trying to talk about, trying to get a deal. They were never serious about trying to get a deal in the first place. I think this has been the biggest revelation, especially in the past 3 months. I was always in the mind that no deal Brexit was never really going to be on the table. I was pretty much confident at the last moment Boris Johnson would somehow, in some way, capitulate and cut a deal and then sell it as some sort of victory to the British people, and it would somehow manage to appease everyone. The ERG would be mostly happy because they got Brexit, but they didn't get everything they wanted. But hey, they got most of what it is. I thought that was what it was going to be. I thought it was still going to be very much a hard Brexit, but maybe soft in some areas, harder in others. I thought that was what it was going to be, but the following weeks, as we went more and more into this year and closer to the deadline, you just saw the shape come out completely. They don't care. And afterwards, we've now got to try and get some sort of free trade agreement. These deals take years to negotiate, and then you've got the implementation period to get them fully implemented. It's going to take decades, at least a decade, to get one in. Our most closest trading partner, and by the way, Brexit doesn't change that. It doesn't matter that we go and get a trade deal with Australia, New Zealand, or America. Those will not replace what we lose from Europe. It is impossible. Every single trade expert, every single time we cover this, every single time, all the time, experts agree. We cannot cover what we lose from leaving the European Union. And as a result, as always, I just say this. All we had to do to get back into the European Union is to let Brexit happen. Brexit is going to be dead on arrival. And all it's going to take is 5 or 10 years. And all we have to do is start campaigning. And trust me, next year, that is going to start. And oh boy, the buyer's remorse, especially from Brexiteers. Remember, the Tories are now trying to court people in the North and all these Leave seats that they won for the first time. Not only is Brexit and the coronavirus going to absolutely devastate these towns, but then they have the goal to say, oh, we're putting funding into these places that vote for us. You know, we're going to level them up. The money amounts to I can't remember where it was from now, but it literally amounts to every town and city in this region getting an extra £73. Once again, this has been branded by many right-wing people as Johnson's New Deal. It is nowhere near that scale. FDR put in something about 40% of the government's GDP to get his New Deal, and it was a success. Johnson has put in something like 0.02%. And all we can say is there are a lot of people out there who voted for Brexit on the idea that this was somehow going to make their life better. And all I can say is, you know, anyone who, if you've ever been conned, you will have that moment of when you find out you've been conned or someone tells you you've been conned, you'll have that moment of, no, I know I haven't been conned. That's where we still are at the moment. And as we've said with the Leave HQ, posting again, continuing to post some very, very remorseful, regretful tweets, trying to sort of change the narrative, saying we weren't supporters of that type of Brexit. And as you'll notice, I'm saying, and again, my prediction still stands that one day we will see on a main Brexit supporting newspaper, this isn't the Brexit we voted for. All I can say is my phone is ready and it's waiting to ring, and one day I will get to answer it.